Talk to me,
Welcome to Purpose Wednesday. I'm Coach Latasha S. Morgan, and I'm here to help you unlock your true potential.
Hello there, and welcome to Purpose Wednesday. I'm Latasha Morgan, certified Christian life coach, certified professional life coach, board certified master Christian mental health coach, and a whole lot of other goodies, y'all. I've had an amazing day, and I pray that you have had an amazing day as well. I also pray that every day to come is even greater and more amazing than the one before. Listen, we are going to be talking about stop asking for signs. You're ignoring instructions. This Purpose Wednesday will be covered in two parts. We're going to talk about the structure of obedience, where we'll look at 1 Samuel chapter 13, verses 8 through 14. And then in the second part, we'll talk about partial obedience, structural failure. And we'll look at scripture, the 1 Samuel chapter 15, verses 13 through 24. And then you know what we're going to do? Like we always do. We're going to have some application. We got to always apply what we've learned. So let's get into it, okay? Let's talk about Saul. Saul is our case study for tonight, and I want you to understand and know that this is not about self-encouragement. No, it's about corrective clarity. Some of us are praying for confirmation when God is waiting on compliance. We're fasting for clarity. God has already given you instructions. You're asking God for a sign when you haven't completed the assignment that He has given you. He's giving you a command that you're continuously keeping undone. Listen, and this is not confusion. This is resistance disguised as spirituality. Saul is our case study. He was confirmed, he was anointed, he was empowered, he was even spirit-filled, but he still lost alignment with God. And it wasn't because God wasn't speaking to him, that he wasn't giving him instructions, but it was because Saul negotiated obedience. Saul negotiated obedience. But before we can go any farther in this Purpose Wednesday, we have to know who Saul is, right? Who is Saul? And for those of you who are watching who don't know, Saul is the son of Kish. He ends up being the first king of Israel. Saul means requested, asked for, and that's what he was. He was asked for. The people came together and they asked Samuel for a king, since Samuel was getting old and they wanted to be like other kingdoms, have a king to rule over them that will go and fight battles for them, right? They didn't want to be different. And to be honest, asking for a king was a sin because God only had judges for them because He was their king. Saul is a Benjamite, and he doesn't see himself as a king. He actually sees himself as the least of Israel, when he's actually the most handsomest of the whole nation of Israel. He's also the tallest. He's taller than the others. But he still sees himself as small in his eyes. He's even when Samuel gets ready to anoint him, he says, "How can you say this to me when I'm the least of the tribe of Israel?" Right? So let's set this up. Before Samuel anoints Saul as king, Saul is looking for his father's donkeys, him and his servant. They get to the land of Zoph, and the servant says that before they leave, he wants to go ahead and find them by asking for a seer. Saul suggests that they go home because his father will forget about the donkeys and start worrying about him and wondering where he is, which does happen, right? So they find someone talk to some people in Zope, and they tell him that the seer is in the city today, that he'll be there soon, and he is going up to do an offering. They're going to have a meal. And so they go looking for Samuel, and they run into him, and they ask him if he can let them know where their seer is. And he says, I am the seer. Now, before Saul even came, God had already told Samuel that Saul was coming and that he would anoint him as king. Samuel invites Saul and his servant to the feast. They go to the feast. They get ready. They spend time with Samuel there. Samuel has prepared and has someone set aside a piece of meat. Has them give that to Saul. You get to the end where Samuel anoints Saul as king. But before he does that, he tells him to send the servant on home. He lets him know that the donkeys have been found. And so Samuel tells Saul about the signs he will see before he's anointed king. He will speak. So Saul spoke in tongues and prophesied. Saul saves Jabesh Gilead, and that's chapter 11. Chapter 12, he goes to his coronation, right? Now we're up to chapter 13. There is a structure of obedience. Obedience begins with revelation and confirmation, then instruction, testing, and then establishment. Saul received revelation and confirmation. He failed in instruction and testing. That is where most believers collapse. And we're going to see this active here in 1 Samuel chapter 13, verses 8 through 14. Let's set up chapter 13 for you before we go into verse 8. So Saul has been reigning 2 years now. And he chose 3,000 men of Israel. 2,000 were with him in Michmash and in Mount Bethel, and then 1,000 were with Jonathan in Gibeah of Benjamin. So Jonathan smote the Philistine garrison in Gibeah, and the Philistines heard about it. And then Israel had an abomination with the Philistines. They had become an abomination to them. And so they were all called together after Saul to Gilgal, right? So they are scared. They're afraid. Some of them are hiding in caves and thickets and rocks and high places, even in pits. And they are afraid. Some of the people went over Jordan to the land of Gad and Gilead. And Saul, he was in Gilgal, and the people followed him trembling. They were afraid. Saul waited 7 days according to the set time that Samuel had appointed. But Samuel didn't arrive at Gilgal, and the people scattered from Saul. Saul was so concerned about the people scattering that he told them to bring to him a burnt offering and a peace offering. And he offered the burnt offering. This is verse 9 here. And it came to pass that as soon as he had made and ended up offering the burnt offering, behold, Samuel came. And Saul went out to meet him, and that he might salute him. And Samuel was like, what have you done? So Saul excuses his behavior by blaming it on the people. Listen, this is what he says in verse 11. And Saul said, because I saw that the people were scattered from me, and that thou camest not within the days appointed, and that the Philistines gathered themselves together at Michmash. Therefore I said, the Philistines will come down now upon me to Gilgal, and I have not made supplication unto the Lord. I forced myself, therefore, and offered a burnt offering. And Samuel said to Saul, thou hast done foolishly. Thou hast not kept the commandment of the Lord thy God, which he commanded thee. For now would the Lord have established thy kingdom upon Israel forever. But now thy kingdom shall not continue. The Lord hath sought him a man after his own heart, and the Lord hath commanded him to be a captain over his people, because thou hast not kept that which the Lord commanded thee. After 2 years, he had already messed up. After 2 years, he had already messed up. After all that God had did, all that God had done, he still disobeyed. You can wait. Just because Samuel wasn't there in 7 days, you can wait. What actually happened here? Saul waited the 7 days, but he did not do it faithfully. There is a difference between delayed obedience and anxious obedience. The Hebrew culture understood something very critical. Kings did not perform priestly duties. Saul crossed covenant boundaries because the people were leaving. This was not about sacrifice. This was about image. He said, I had to force myself to sacrifice the burnt offering. You can force yourself to be still and wait. You can force yourself to be obedient and wait on Samuel to come and make the burnt offer the sacrifice like he was supposed to. And it cost Saul everything. It cost him, but not only did it cost him, it cost his whole lineage. All because he did not trust that obedience would hold the army. He feared losing public confidence, so he chose control over compliance to God. Man, Saul here was displaying fear of abandonment, fear of losing authority, external validation dependence, urgency driven by insecurity. He was already insecure before he even became king. He never took care of what was on the inside. He had to feel like a king on the inside before he became a king on the outside. Saul acted not because God was unclear in his instructions, but because pressure made obedience uncomfortable. He didn't want to wait anymore because he felt that the people would leave and he would be left alone. He was scared. Fear caused him to lose everything. Everything. Saul did not lack information. He lacked internal stability. Let's go into part 2, partial obedience, structural failure. Now we move to the most serious collapse. 1 Samuel chapter 15, verses 13 through 24. This is the major. In 1 Samuel chapter 15, we see, let's set it up here, we see that Samuel gives Saul instructions from God. That the Lord sent him to anoint him, Saul, as king over Israel. Now he said to hearken unto the words of the Lord. Listen up, Saul. I need you to hear what the Lord has said. He says that he tells him to remember that Amalek came against Israel when they were coming out of Egypt. He told Samuel to go and smite Amalek and utterly destroy everything they have. Spare them not, but slay both man and woman, infant and suckling, oxen, sheep, camel, and donkeys, right? And Saul gathered the people together. He numbered them in Tillim, 200,000 foot men and 10,000 men of Judah. He went to Amalek, lay wait in the valley and all of that. He tells the Canaanites to go ahead and leave from among the Amalekites so he wouldn't destroy them with him, because they were good towards Israel when they came up out of Egypt. So he spares Ahab. He doesn't kill him, like I said. He takes the best of the sheep and of the oxen and the fatlings, the lambs, and all that was good. And everything else he utterly destroyed. Everything that was vile and refused, they destroyed all of that. But God spoke to Samuel and told Samuel what happened. And God said, I repenteth me that I've set up Saul as king. He said he wished he never put Saul as king. Saul was grieved and cried to the Lord all night. So Samuel goes up to Carmel to address Saul. And here we go in verse 13. Now Saul knows that Samuel is a prophet. And obviously God has already told him what happened. But he goes to Samuel anyway. He says, blessed be the Lord. I have performed and I have obeyed the commandment of the Lord. And Samuel said, then why do I hear sheep in my ear? Then Saul blames it on the people. He says they brought them from the Amalekites, the sheep from the Amalekites. For the people spared the best of the sheep and of the oxen to sacrifice unto the Lord thy God, as if he's not Saul's Lord. And the rest we have utterly destroyed. And Samuel said to Saul, verse 16, stay, and I will tell thee what the Lord has said to me this night. And he said unto him, say on. And Samuel said, when thou wast little in thine own sight, was thou not made the head of the tribes of Israel? And the Lord anointed thee king over Israel? And the Lord sent thee on a journey and said, go and utterly destroy the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they be consumed. Wherefore then didst thou not obey the voice of the Lord, but didst fly upon the spoil, and didst evil in the sight of the Lord? And Saul said unto Samuel, yeah, I have obeyed the voice of the Lord, and have gone the way which the Lord sent me, and have brought Ahab, the king of Amalek, and have utterly destroyed the Amalekites. But the people took the spoil, sheep and oxen, the chief of the things, which should have been utterly destroyed, to sacrifice unto the Lord thy God in Gilgal. And Samuel said, Have the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices, and in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as a sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because thou hast rejected the word of the Lord, he hath also rejected thee from being king. And Saul said unto Samuel, I have sinned, for I have transgressed the commandment of the Lord and thy words, because I feared the people and obeyed their voice. Fear will cause you to lose everything. And not only cause you to lose, but sure, the generations that come behind you to lose as well. The fear of people will always distort disobedience. The fear of people will always distort obedience. Saul asked for signs. He wanted reassurance. Saul wanted Samuel's public endorsement, but he would not obey when it cost him popularity. What is your obedience costing you that you're not willing to pay? And you'll rather be disobedient than obey what God said because of the people around you, or what is going to cost you. Maybe your gift or your purpose is going to cause you popularity. Maybe it's going to cost you some of the friends and family members you have around you. What costs are you willing to pay to be obedient to God? The structural pattern of failure. Saul was given clear instruction. He had external pressure, anxiety, partial obedience. He obeyed partially. Spiritual language to justify it. That's what he used. He did blame shifting. He blamed others instead of taking responsibility for his action. He blamed the people. He also blamed Samuel because Samuel had came at the 7 day set time. Loss of alignment. He lost it all. That's the pattern of failure. When you disobey clear instruction because of external pressure, anxiety, you obey partially and you justify it, spiritually justify it, and shift the blame on someone else and don't take responsibility. You lose alignment. And this didn't happen all of a sudden, right? Saul did not fall suddenly. He eroded gradually. He was insecure. His insecurities were never taken care of. And because he feared the people, he wanted to be popular. He didn't want to lose the affection and the love of the people because he didn't have that before. That was something he valued. He found himself in that. He considered that to be who he was. He was afraid to lose that. But let's talk about you and me. Here's the application. You keep asking God, is this you? But what did he already say? You're asking for peace when peace follows obedience. You're asking for clarity when clarity follows action. You're asking for signs when instruction is already written and is already given. We learn from Saul that sometimes we delay our own selves. Saul was not delayed by God. He was confirmed early. He delayed himself through negotiated obedience. God does not stall purpose. Fear does. Disobedience does. Image management does. When you put your image before what God has said, it becomes your God. When you put fear in what God has said is going to do before what God has said, that becomes your God. Maybe you're like Saul, and you find confidence in the security and the popularity of, and the love and affection of other people. Maybe you don't know what's going to happen when you take that moment, when you take a step into purpose. You don't know what's going to happen, so that scares you. What has God already said to you that you still haven't done? Where are you waiting for a sign in your life instead of responding to the command that God has already given? Take a look at you. What are you spiritualizing that is actually avoidance? Don't ask for signs when God has already spoken. Choose obedience over reassurance. Trust God. It may not turn out the way you want it to, but it will turn out the way God wanted to. He knows the beginning as well as the end. He knows everything in between. Trust God enough to follow his instructions. What God has confirmed does not need to be renegotiated. Good night. And thank you so much for watching Purpose Wednesday. I appreciate you. I really do. And I look forward to talking to you again next week. Again, thank you for watching. Good night.